existence is not up for debate. I'll be passing it on to our wonderful cis ally Meat Shield, Kira, and she'll be giving some more information.
We're here today because the South Wales Trans and Non-Binary Mutual Aid felt we had to speak out against the injustices. If you're not aware of us, we run a trans wardrobe where you can obtain free clothing. We distribute funds to trans people in need, run campaigns where allies can donate money to trans people who are in need, and we run a trans-friendly GP map for all of Wales. If you're an ally, definitely get involved, and if you're a trans person, check out what we've got. I've got QR codes in my bag, so everyone can have a look at the website and see what's available. Who wants to speak?
Hello, I'm Lee Framage. I run the Trans Wardrobe and the Trans Correspondence Scheme, which is where you can be set up with a pen pal who will keep you company through lockdown, especially with everything else getting locked down very quickly. So if you're interested in either of those things, come and find me at the end. Otherwise, my only talents are shouting really, really loudly. So I do that a lot. That's a long clap for shouting really loudly. First of all, this guy said trans rights, second of all, I want to talk to you guys a bit about a phrase that I've heard quite recently. It's quite new to me, and I love it. I want to say it every day. It's my new favorite phrase, which is, you have to learn to love trans women more than you hate TERFs. And I want every ally to listen to it, and I'm serious about what I'm saying. I'm so tired of people claiming that they're trans inclusive or they're trans allies, when what they really mean is I wouldn't punch you, and I moan conservatives on Reddit. Like, I don't care. I don't care if actually you've read all of the literature and you've decided that trans people are real because we already know that we're real. I don't really care if you jump into conversations when nobody asked you and correct people's pronouns without asking the trans person this. I want real allyship in 2021. And real allyship comes from listening to us and asking what we need, because we know what we need. We've known what we need for ages. And the funny thing is, it's not a GRC reform. Obviously, the GRC reform is extremely important, and I will be going into that. But I want you all to realize that this is the same as making gay marriage the only issue that's ever discussed when it comes to gay and queer folk. This is bureaucracy. Bureaucracy doesn't put food on our tables. It doesn't stop our kids getting bullied in school. It doesn't pay our electricity bill. It doesn't end housing discrimination. It doesn't end employment discrimination. It doesn't do anything material for our lives. The Mutual Aid Fund was set up because we're tired of trying to work within the system that hates us. So we decided to set up an extra system that people can use for support. But it's really hard to explain to people why the system hates us. And it simply comes down to we're very easy to hate. We are an easy target because we're already vulnerable. We're an easy target because we go against conservative traditional family values, a meaningless sentence. Because as far as I'm concerned, my found family means a hell of a lot more than most families I know with trans kids. After us is because we're divisive. Because if you listen to a lovely elderly TERF for 4 seconds and you're a clueless cis person, yeah, they start to make a lot of sense. Because nobody really wants to put us as a priority. Nobody really cares that much because we're really teeny tiny as a population. We are small as a population, that's why we come together for community events. It's because we're a small population. There aren't swathes of trans women just trying to get into the leisure centre 100 at a time. It's not happening. If it was, tell me where the leisure centre is. like advertising. But the reason that the GRA reform can be summed up quite easily to a lot of cis people who might be here. I want you to imagine somebody in your life, a woman who's had a huge impact on you. It could be your mum or your aunt or your sister, it could be your friend. And I want you to imagine that something awful happens and you lose her. She dies. It's heartbreaking. And I want you to imagine, for reasons that you can't comprehend, when she dies, they shave her head, they put her in a suit, they bury her under a stranger's name. Even when you go to mourn her, you can't see her name written on her tombstone. That is the fate that every trans person without a GRA is threatened with. A pointless document that does barely anything also holds over us one of the worst fears I know a lot of trans people have, which is being forgotten. Your entire life that you had to carve out of stone with your bare hands, being thrown away to make cis people comfortable. And I cannot say this enough, trans people's lives matter more than cis people's comfort. Your insecurities do not get to define medical pathways. They don't. And if they did, well, the UK's racist enough. Who's going to be next? Oh no, Romani people, they make me really uncomfortable. So they're not allowed to exist publicly anymore. Yeah, that doesn't sound so great, does it? It sounds a little bit like fascism. Awkward but true. All of you, really glad to see you wearing your masks and glad to see you social distancing. And I know that this is an extra difficult time for all of us, especially for disabled members of our community. Myself included. I was going to swear, but then I realized there were children around. I've got sleepy man disorder. But I'm really glad that you all made out tonight, because I know that it's not easy. I know, it's not a trans meetup, unfortunately, but it kind of has the vibe. I'm feeling festive. I've got enough queer people around me to feel kind of like vaguely normal for once in a while. Keep fighting. We can't let them know. Well, we can't let them think that we're going to roll over every time they make a decision that takes trans rights and puts them on the back burner. Nowhere else in the NHS is anyone expected to wait 3 years for their first appointment of a referral. Nowhere. And trust me, I have like 7 different consultants and I've asked them. Nowhere else are we expected to wait 3 years. And the reason we're expected to wait 3 years is because they don't care about us. And they know that nobody else does either. They know that we're small enough that they can take away our rights, they can take away our dignity, and they think we're going to roll over, and we're not. We're not rolling over anymore. We're not rolling over for this, no matter how trivial I personally might think it is. We're not rolling over for our medical rights. We're not rolling over anymore. Not in Cardiff, not in London, not in Edinburgh, not anywhere. And the only way to make sure that we have a strong resistance against conservatives, TERFs, fascists, homophobes, and other people who want to take away our basic human dignities is to come together as a community. I take tips of £5.
Hello. I'm not usually one for protests. I'm not particularly used to speaking in front of lots of people. But this matters. And as we said, it doesn't matter because of a piece of paper. It matters because the debate over that piece of paper seems to have given carte blanche to anyone who wants to exercise their prejudice in print, online, on television and wherever they can gain a voice. And they can gain a voice. There's talk of us being some trans cabal or trans lobby, as if anyone actually listens to our collective voice. The access to media that we have as trans people is minuscule in comparison to the media access that those who would deny us our rights have. That's been seen again and again in the Sunday Times, where almost every week, with wearying regularity, there is another statement of turf lies, exaggerations, untruths, call it what you will. It's just lies. I want to talk about a couple of things from the latest Sunday Times article. Firstly, they've said that officials said that the results have been skewed by trans rights organisations. As was said earlier, what, really? Trans rights organisations getting involved in a consultation on trans rights? If you were going to have a consultation on rural land use, would you discount the results of that consultation because the National Farmers Union got involved? Now, I work in the public sector, and the other bit of that grates on me is that they say officials say that it's skewed. No, they don't. I am bound by the Civil Service Code. I cannot say anything about the government, which is why I'm not. What I can say is officials cannot make statements to the press. This is on the politicians. This is on the organised terms. This is on the people who are fighting against them. The hard-working civil servants who are having their jobs trodden on from above do not deserve our condemnation. We need to aim that clearly at the door of Liz Truss and Boris Johnson. And I said I'm not allowed to talk politics. I work to that building, not theirs.
Hi guys, I'm the scary trans person that's here to steal your rights and also your bathrooms. I'm actually an admin on a fun little meme page that's made of trans guys, and one of the things that we do is little tips and tricks, and one of the ones that I wrote was an introduction to the men's bathroom, because it's a terrifying place and also multi-breath. The number of people who found it useful shows that it is not trans people that are the threat in public bathrooms. In fact, in my experience, it's been cis people. I have not once had a single problem. I have not once caused a single problem. However, the number of boys and trans girls who have come to me and said, bro, I hate using public restrooms. I would literally rather get a kidney infection than use a public restroom because it's such a terrifying place. Projection is the closest thing to a confession you will ever get from a narcissist. And that's how it feels for cis people in public restrooms. Also, healthcare. Can we have some, please? It would be really nice. I actually ended up in the hospital, and I have to say, all of the doctors were really good about it. They all, you know, sort of like, yeah, he's XX, but he's definitely a dude. I mean, look at him, look at those shoulders, he's a hunchman. But it just shows that the people who are into the medical profession and the people who know what they're talking about are 11 times out of 10 completely and utterly supportive. And isn't it funny that when you read up, you start realizing, hey, maybe there's a little bit of credence in this whole trans thing. Because guess what? There is. I am an expert in neurology, biology, gynecology, because people keep asking me stuff. You know, I rock up and I mention that I'm trans, and suddenly I have to be an expert on neurodivergence, because I need to prove my existence to every goddamn person that I meet. And you know what? I'm sick of it. Read a dictionary, bro. Yes, it was. And even though my life has been pretty miserable, I have to accept that I'm one of the lucky ones. I like to think I'm cis-passing, and if I'm not, please don't tell me, because I'm really happy that I am. I look like a dude, I act like a dude, sometimes I catch myself and I think, wow, bro, you're a bit of a dude. And it's like, I look to the outside world like a cis-white man, and I'm having a really rough time. Trans women of colour who come from poverty, yikes. That, when you realise that you have privilege, when you've spent so long thinking that you are in the gutter and stepped on, which you are, and you realise, of course, privilege is not a competition, and I'm in no way insinuating that. I noticed as soon as I started actually looking and acting like a boy, the respect that I got on the street skyrocketed. But there was a weird phase in the middle where I didn't quite look like either, and let me tell you, that was when I got the most shit. And I know there are kids here, but it was shit. A number of people talk about binary trans having healthcare remote. That's a jolly joy, isn't it? Love it so much. Yeah, we definitely have the same rights. Education is the enemy of bigotry, so it's time to get out there. Be loud if it's safe to be. Be loud if you can be. And God damn it, be loud! I'd like to finish with a couple of easy instructions.
Hi, thanks for chance to speak. I'm Joe, I'm from Unite the Union and Cardiff Trades Council, and I just want to bring solidarity from the trade union movement for this demonstration and to the trans community in your struggles, because I think it's incredibly important, because the principle of the trade union movement is an injury to one is an injury to all, and that's as applicable here as I think to everyone. You know, I think I feel like I've got everything in common, like with everyone here, and I really feel a sense of solidarity because, you know, we're all, you know, I feel far more in common with everyone here than I would with Boris Johnson or the Queen or any person you would, you know, say. Okay, they might be a cis person, I might be a cis person. You know, that's not the point. You know, I'm a working class person. I rely on the National Health Service as well. I've had my own struggles in that area. I'm a socialist and a member of the Socialist Party, and I hate these people. They sow division for their own purposes. You know, whether it's
the predators in the alleys, violent hounds that must be disciplined, restrained, and caged. Look around you, the faces of those that surround you, even though you're wearing masks. Do we look so different? Yeah, we're hotter. Do we stand confused? Or do we sound as though we know exactly what we fucking want? We want ownership of our own bodies. We want trans kids of the future to see hope, to know there's a place for them in this world where they can exist as who they are, not what they are seen as. We want our voices to not just be heard, but acknowledged. We are sick of waiting. To wait is a privilege. We've waited long enough. The blood of our late trans brothers, sisters and siblings is in the palms of this corrupt system. The system which we have no choice but to listen to transphobic so-called professionals tell us we're not man enough, not woman enough, for not conforming to a restrictive binary, and sanction us for not conforming to their false ideas of how trans people should act and be in order to be perceived as valid by refusing to acknowledge our identities and therefore cutting our access to transition. So when they cut our access to transition, we will never be man enough, we will never be woman enough, we will never be enough. We don't need you to love us. We don't need you to cover your face in glitter and show up at a pig-infested parade. We don't need you to queerbait through replacing your company logo with a flag for a month. We need our bodies back. We need a Gender Recognition Act reform, and we need it now.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Yeah. Nice to see so many people attending this event. It helps the cause well. Thank you. Discovering what is happening to the LGBT community in the UK is heartbreaking. Together we need to stand together to overthrow the Tories and get rid of Prime Minister Johnson once and for all. Solidarity to the LGBT community. Cheers.
Anyone else?
Now can you hear me okay? Yeah. Alright. First, I would say it's lovely to see so many people here, but I'm blind even when my glasses aren't fogged up, so we'll just go about that. I will say what I've seen is one of the best protest signs. I've seen in quite a lot of protests recently. Sitting right up there. Hold it up. Bring it down. Powerful. It's because it's funny. But in humor and poetry and anything else, there's always one adage. You don't punch down. The punchline is never someone more vulnerable than you. And that's something our government could stand to learn. That is something J.K. Rowling could learn. Because to them, we're just the punchline. We are the people that they can say, who will no one care about if we cut their funding? Who will no one care about if the suicide rates go up? Because, well, what do we matter? We're just a tiny percentage. A loud fucking percentage. And now, as they're talking about all their lovely reasons why we don't need to
they say, oh, it doesn't really matter in everyday life. You can just present and that'll be fine. Last December, I ended up getting sectioned for reasons. And when I got taken to the women's ward for my lovely secure detainment, I met a panel of psychologists, the same types of people we currently have to persuade when we go for our GRC meetings. And they decided I wasn't woman enough because, well, XY, AMAB, whatever. And I got sent to a men's ward. A men's ward with no lockable doors. A men's ward with no individual bathrooms, with windows on every door. Because I was not woman enough. And that is why we need to fight. Because I survived it. I had support, even though I didn't realize it at the time. But there are so many people that don't. We've got wonderful people here today. We've got incredibly strong speakers, incredibly funny speakers. But there are people that aren't strong enough to be able to venture out yet. There are people that do not have the support networks. There are people that have to hide. And that is fucking terrible. There should be no person in this country, one of the supposedly developed and civilized countries, that has to hide, that has to suffer, that has to go without, just because government has decided that they are less important than a piece of paper. So, as everyone here has said, keep shouting, keep pointing out the terms, keep shouting down their lives, and always be willing to give what strength you can to support your trans siblings. Thank you.
If I tell a feminist that a woman's being told what she can do with her body by the government, there is outrage. Immediately. Because the government should not have legislature over what a woman can do with her body, right? But when you mention it's a trans woman in this situation, suddenly it's up for debate. If I say that a woman should not have to dress hyper-feminine to be respected, feminists agree with that on the face of it. But when you mention it's a trans woman, suddenly it is up for debate. And there seems to be no way to win with these terms, because if a trans woman presents however she likes, they don't feel safe in the bathroom because she should look like a man. But even if she does, then she's appropriating femininity. There is no way to win with these people. And this goes for anyone. And the key word here is debate. And I'm preaching to the choir because we all know there is no fucking debate anymore. And I'm sorry, kids. But there is no debate. And to treat it as such is insulting, it's demeaning, it is degrading. To have people say, to have, what was it, the Women's Equality Party say, we're going to sit down with some trans women and with some transphobes and we're going to have a civil debate. There is no such thing. You cannot have one group who doesn't believe in the rights of another group civilly debating them. You cannot sit down and politely say to someone, I do not think you deserve recognition. I do not think you deserve healthcare. I do not think that you deserve to live. You cannot say these things politely. And I wish we could stop having educated people on Twitter preaching their views. And because they have a degree in classics and they wrote Harry Potter, they're being polite. Not anymore! And as we've said with the GRA reform, the GRC is just a piece of not define us, but as for the reasons aforementioned, it does. It affects us, it affects our lives. But trans people have always survived, trans people have always lived, trans people have always found each other throughout history and existed without the permission of cis people. So it's not that the GRA reform is shit, that's not the thing that hurts. The thing that hurts is they said they would fix it. They said they would reform it, they made these promises, they made these pledges, they dangled it in front of us, and then they took it away. And they didn't even have the decency to say that they were breaking those promises, they had to leak it. And that is what is insulting, is that we are not treated as first-class citizens, we are treated as an afterthought that can be leaked in a newspaper. And that is what hurts. So, you know, Boris, let's go. At this point, just say you hate us. Just admit it. I would so much rather they said, hey, trans people make me really uncomfortable. I watched this film when I was younger where a transgender person was a serial killer and now I think they're gonna attack me in the bathroom. I'd rather you just said that than trying to dress it up as some really profound medical debate where actually I got a medical degree from Twitter.com and I can tell you that trans people are so. Just shut up. Just say you hate us so we can move on and do things our own way through mutual aid funds. At this point, I think maybe we'd almost rather that. So either commit to it and say you're going to help us, or say you hate us and stop saying Happy Pride every year on the Conservative Twitter, stop putting your capitalist logos in rainbow,